Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for another webinar here on Food Industry Executive. My name is Hillary Baker, Director of Strategic Growth, and I'm so excited to have you all here for today's presentation. Before we dive in, I have just a couple of housekeeping items. First, if you have any questions at all, you can go ahead and drop those into the questions panel and we'll address them at the end of the presentation. Second, we will send out a recording of the event, so just keep an eye on your inbox for that. Now, without further ado, I am thrilled to introduce you to today's topic, Leverage AI for Innovation, Automation, and Growth, brought to you by Infor. Infor is a global leader in business cloud software products for companies in industry-specific markets. Infor builds complete industry suites in the cloud and efficiently deploys technology that puts the user experience first, leverages data science, and integrates easily into existing systems. For food and beverage manufacturers, Infor's ERP solutions have industry functionality built in to support innovation, safety, and sustainability, to grow your business profitably. Joining us today are two experts from Infor who will dive into how you can leverage AI for innovation, automation, and growth in your business and share the results businesses are seeing already today. With that, I'll pass it over to you, Mikhail.
Thank you, Hillary, and welcome everyone to today's webinar. We are going to discuss how to leverage AI or artificial intelligence to bring innovation, automation, and growth. And there are many opportunities for food and beverage to leverage artificial intelligence. And we're going to talk about a few of them, not all, but a few. For example, within asset management, demand management, also different kind of optimizations within the manufacturing itself, for example, optimizing the yield or optimizing inventory or even optimizing pricing towards customers. So within these areas and many more, there is a lot of opportunity to leverage artificial intelligence to be able to innovate, automate, and ultimately set the foundation for growth. So that's what we're going to talk about today. My name is Mikael Bengtsson. I'm with Infor. I work as an industry strategist for food and beverage. And with me today is my colleague, Todd Donzelli. And Todd is working with the latest technology and artificial intelligence being one of them, and is really an expert on how we can leverage that to bring that innovation and automation within food and beverage. We'll have some time also before we get started. We'll have some time at the end to cover questions. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat and we'll try to cover at the end of the session. Okay, let's get started. And Todd, I'll start with a question for you. So I think about the past 10 years or so, there's been a lot of talk about digital transformation. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's really been on top of mind for a lot of people. In the digital transformation, where does AI fit and what's the impact of AI in digital transformation?
Yeah, Mikhail, and that's a great place to start. So if we think about digital transformation, over the last 10 years, everybody wants to digitally transform their organizations. And, the biggest question that I get posed, or have been posed over the last 10 years is, what is digital transformation? What does it mean? And I think there's a very simple way to define it. Digital transformation is simply the process of reimagining how your organization operates. So first of all, it's rethinking how you want to run your business. And as you rethink about how you want to run your business, you look at how technology can enhance and enable that, as well as really change the way people think from a corporate mindset to get in this mindset of continuous innovation. So it's really a combination of technology enablers, the process reimagining experience, as well as developing a culture of innovation in your company. So digital transformation itself really should be demystified by now, but it means that we're taking advantage of the latest technologies to get the very most out of our organizational processes and how our people work on a day-to-day basis. So if you think about what artificial intelligence brings to this formula, it's really one of the newest and most powerful tools in that technology enabler toolkit. If we think about the technology that has come in the past, whether it be cloud computing or big data, Internet of Things from a manufacturing perspective, or even, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence pulls many of those elements together from a data perspective. And so if we transition now from digital transformation to really, how do we define artificial intelligence? There's a lot of noise and there's a lot of information going on around AI now. Artificial intelligence really is, in its simplest terms, a way to use machines, computers, to better understand and be able to process and pull insights out of vast oceans of data. We're all swimming in information in a way that we haven't before. More information has been created in the last couple of years than in the last couple of decades. And being able to sift through that information and divine from that information, what are some key insights? What are some key decisions that we should be making? And what are some actions that we can be taking is really what the power of artificial intelligence brings to business nowadays. So
yeah.
Go ahead, please.
No, so that makes sense. If I interpret that, so that's kind of one component and a newer component in the overall digital transformation.
Correct. Yeah, and as we think about AI, as Hillary mentioned, we see a number of areas where artificial intelligence is applicable across many businesses. But for food and beverage, I think there's some areas where we see a tremendous amount of interest. There are immeasurable number of use cases out there for artificial intelligence. But what we have seen over the last few years is it's become more of a readily adopted technology in the industry, is that there's really 5 areas where artificial intelligence is really providing value today. And that's in the area of demand management, inventory optimization, pricing optimization, asset management, and yield optimization, right? So those are some of the areas that we're going to cover today. And it's actually probably a good opportunity to transition then over into what some of those areas are. So let's take a second and talk about demand management, Mikhail. If we think about what we see as opportunities for potential benefits in demand management, I'll just cover 3. From a demand management perspective, the ability to improve your forecast accuracy is key. Understanding what the customer demand is going to lead to much more effective and efficient production scheduling. It's going to lead to reduced waste. We talk about yield and waste, go hand in hand. And it's also a great driver of cost minimization, right? Being able to reduce costs from the business on a daily perspective. The second area is, frankly, it's around customer satisfaction. Our customers are expecting us to have the right products at the right time when they need them, ensuring that product availability and being able to contribute to a much higher level of customer satisfaction and customer loyalty. And then the last element of this is, how do you optimize your inventory levels? Making sure that you're maintaining the right inventory levels, you're avoiding overstock or stockouts where you're out of materials or you're out of goods. Because whether you have too much or too little, that's going to have tremendous impact on things like holding costs and lost business opportunity, lost revenue opportunity.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think especially that on being able to meet customer demand when there is demand and not do any overproduction. And that, of course, depends on what food and beverage micro vertical we are talking about, because some can handle that better than others, depending on the nature of that micro vertical and the products. But like you said, potentially reducing waste because you have no overproduction, but at the same time being able to meet that customer demands. I think those are very, very important topics within food and beverage.
Yeah, completely agree. And demand management really it's the foundation for the rest of the use cases that we see having a big impact across business nowadays. Because along with demand management, we talked about inventory, optimizing inventory levels. The ability to optimize inventory is a use case in and of itself. right? So if we take a moment to talk about inventory optimization, we hit on a couple of areas, but we'll drill down into these things. It's just simply the concept of reducing holding costs, right? Lower inventory means that you're lowering the cost of your stock levels, and it's an overall cost savings from a business perspective. So it provides you a lot of bottom line value to your business. The other thing it allows you to do is it allows you to be much more effective and efficient when it comes to your operations, right? If you're streamlining that inventory management process, then you're reducing things like time and labor, right? Folks who have to manage that inventory, move it around, bring it into production. So that's, if you're optimizing your labor workforce on a daily basis and getting the most out of them, it's going to have another very strong impact on your bottom line in terms of overall operating efficiency. And the last of that is along, like we said, with demand management, you'll see a theme here, is enhanced service levels, right? Being able to meet customer demands properly. We know supply chains are things that are constantly in flux, and but there hasn't been a time in recent history outside of the last 5 or 6 years where we've seen significant challenges to meeting supply chain variations. So how can we make sure that we're adjusting to those? We're predicting what those may be, so we can keep those levels of service high, and we keep sort of customer satisfaction high as well, Mikhail.
Yeah, I mean, the past few years have shown us that, right, with all the changes in the world. So it's really about being resilient, flexible, and agile, I think, or has been these past years and probably going forward as well. And I think there is a lot of opportunity across the supply chain. I mean, both upstream, so all the way to the farm, and downstream in the supply chain, to collect a lot of data to see what's going on, and then leverage that data to be much smarter in the supply chain overall, including the demand management.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that, again, this, all of these use cases really do tend to complement each other, because the next one I want to talk about, once we have the concept, we talked about the concept of inventory optimization, is asset management, right? Nothing.
Todd,
yes, go ahead.
Todd, sorry for interrupting. Before we move to that one,
Please.
On the inventory optimization, so that is really that's a use case across most industries, right? It's not every, but many. It's not just food and beverage. But what's interesting, especially for the food and beverage where you have cold storage, I mean, that's very expensive, first of all. And it's also, it's not sustainable. It's not adding to sustainable practices, really, by having a lot of cold storage. So in that situation, inventory optimization is even more important.
I completely agree. Yeah, very, very good point.
Yeah. Well, sorry for that. Yeah, let's talk about asset management. That's it's a great use case, I think, and really playing to the Industry 4.0 concept.
Sure. And it's really getting the most out of your investments in your physical assets, right? Whether you're a producer of food, whether you're a distributor, whether you're on the front end of that in terms of, being in the restaurant industry. It's how can you extend the lifespan of your assets? Because these are not cheap pieces of machinery, cheap devices. They're expensive, and they can be difficult to maintain. There's a complexity to them. And what really we find that adds a lot of value in terms of extending that asset lifespan is that if it's having that effective maintenance and management of those assets, right? And that's one of the things that artificial intelligence is really good at. It's good at predicting when things are going to fail. So you're able to address issues and service assets long before they either fail or you have to replace them. So it not only increases the lifespan, but it also, from an operational perspective, keeps lines up and running. It keeps fleets moving products across countries, across the nation, right? As well as making sure that you're not losing anything from a downtime due to premature replacement of parts, which can be very expensive. And when a part goes down, now you're talking about capital expenditures. So really extending that asset lifespan is one of the key areas that AI can help you from an asset management perspective. And the next is cost efficiency. And we've seen this, it's not only prevalent in food and beverage, but this is one that really is applicable across all industries, right? You optimize the maintenance schedules, and the utilization rates tend to, go down significantly as you're trying to minimize downtime and improve operational costs. And again, that goes now to, one of the key bottom line metrics. And if anybody's on from the finance side of your organization, that's an opportunity to improve overall financial performance. Right. Again, we're talking about, addressing some key bottom line cost areas. And the last is there's really risk mitigation, which is how do you implement that proactive asset management plan and strategy so you don't have to deal with things like asset failure in the middle of a production run. Making sure that, and Mikhail, you mentioned this too, from a sustainability perspective, how do you ensure compliance, right? As well as making sure from an operational perspective that you're achieving operational continuity.
Yeah, I agree. This is a huge one, and I would even tie it back to what we talked about in the demand management, meeting customer demands. So now, if that equipment does go down, and you're down, and you can't even deliver on your promises, that's bad. So now you might even lose revenue. And there could be a waste, right? That the equipment goes down, maybe you need to empty a tank full of something, ingredients or finished product. So that's a waste. It's expensive, it's a waste. And then the one, I don't know if you mentioned that one, but just in case I'll mention it too, you have the food safety aspect of that. If maybe it didn't go down, but maybe, I don't know, a bearing or something is going bad and you get some pieces of metal into the product, whatever it is, or some fluid or something that shouldn't be there. And now we have a food safety issue, and that's very bad. It's bad for the people who might consume it, and for the company. Expensive recalls and losing consumer trust. So I think this is a very important one, and on that asset management, to move from that preventive maintenance to that, you mentioned it, the predictive. You try to foresee it before it happens, so you can be ahead of the game.
Absolutely. And as you mentioned, once it becomes a safety issue, it moves beyond bottom line, because now we're talking about public health, right? And, while this is an important asset for artificial intelligence to have an impact on in many other industries, there are a few industries outside of food and beverage that touch people so personally. And so that's why having that asset management, having the ability to understand what's going on with your equipment machinery is so important. As I mentioned in the digital transformation portion of this, the IoT, the Internet of Things, the ability to get data out of your systems, we're able to understand how these different assets and machines work much more intimately in a way that we haven't been able to in the past. The problem is we have too much information coming at us. So it's more than something like a line manager or an asset manager or a service organization can handle just by combing through the data themselves. And that's where artificial intelligence really comes into its own, in the fact that it can manage a tremendous amount of information, and it can look for patterns, and it can look for trends and identify those trends in a way that's beyond, human eyesight or human insight, really. And so now we get into the power of what AI is doing, on a daily basis. And that goes back to my original point about, why artificial intelligence is it's such a powerful tool, because we all have more information than we know what to deal with. And being able to take advantage of the information and not be overwhelmed by data is a key for any business. Like I mentioned, from a food and beverage perspective, whether it's bottom line or whether it's something as exigent as consumer safety, right? These are important topics for us. And the key to this is understanding this data and being able to make better, accurate predictions, insights, and decisions based upon that.
Yeah, Really what you talk about there, the data and the big data. I mean, if you put these sensors with IoT sensors on the equipment, you get too much data almost, right? And somebody on the floor, they might be able to look at that and see where it's at right now. And they might even be able to look at the trend. But when it's too much data, I mean, the humans can't do it, or then even take many sensors and combine it and see that bigger picture. It's impossible. So I think here, AI is a perfect solution for that use case. So again, it's put those sensors there, collect the big data, and then you apply the AI. I think that's a perfect use case for on asset management. And again, it can improve the uptime, keeping customer promises, reduce waste, make sure you have food safety. It's an absolutely great one, I think, and everybody should really look at that if they're not already.
Agreed. And I think the last couple we'll talk about, to me, are like I said, they're very useful across multiple industries, but they become more relevant, especially in food and beverage. And when I think about pricing optimization, I like to think of the world, I like to think of artificial intelligence through the world of, we all make stuff, and we all want to produce goods, and we want to sell those goods at market to people, and be able to take advantage of that from a business perspective. And that all requires an understanding of raw materials and what that raw material cost is, what that cost is to manufacture or produce that good, and then to bring that good to market in a way that allows you to maximize your profits, but that's also available at a fair price for a business or an end consumer. And that's why pricing optimization is so important, I think, for food and beverage. The fact that it's one of the industries where there is a tremendous amount of variation in the raw materials, right? It's producing steel, producing paper, those things you can pretty much have a good handle on what those costs are. They're very predictable. But when you're dealing with, biological material, whether it's, meat production, whether it's harvests, whether, those things vary tremendously, and there's a lot of things that impact them. It might be weather, there's seasonality. So there's a lot of things that go into the raw materials of food and beverage production that makes artificial intelligence even more important. And we'll get into that when we talk after these use cases with some of our customer stories. But if I think about what's really important in a generic sense from pricing optimization is, like I said, how do you maximize those profits, right? How do you understand what's going on in terms of demand patterns, market condition, raw material cost, and just what's going on out there in the industry? What are the new trends, right? As we move from, and I see these variances all over the place where we move from, looking at alternative sources for protein, for example, right? People are looking for ways to get more nutrients into food. So there's a lot that goes on from a customer sentiment perspective, and understanding what those demand patterns are, how that's going to impact the market. That's something where AI is uniquely positioned to be able to look at that tremendous amount of information and pull insights and give some guidance on how to make the best decision to maximize profits. And if you're going to maximize profits, it's going to allow you to get the most margin for your goods, which gives you competitive advantage, right? You can implement a much more dynamic pricing strategy where you can move your prices up and down based upon those insights that you're receiving from AI to meet those market changes, any competitive actions, right? If your competitors are out there, you're able to react to those much more quickly. And it may also be influenced by things like inventory levels, right? How do you make sure that you maintain that competitive pricing edge? And all of those different things play a significant aspect of it from a data perspective. And really the only way to understand that in the time frame that you need to be able to make those changes is to leverage artificial intelligence, because it can process, the processing power is far beyond human capabilities. And then the last portion of that is aligning it to the market, right? Making sure that you have a pricing strategy that matches your market needs, right? Because that's going to have a huge impact on not only your overall revenue opportunities, but also your brand perception, which is really important, both short-term and long-term, as you try to achieve those revenue goals.
So what I like with this one, most of the use cases we talk about, they are about improving the efficiency, saving on resources, less waste, and we're addressing in that end. But the pricing optimization, now we're applying it to on the revenue generation, making sure we get the most out of that product, right? We're not leaving money on the table, or even use it for suggesting other products. So product recommendations, they kind of go hand in hand. What else can you sell, and what's the best value you can generate for those other products? So this case we're talking about, it's adding to the profitability, same as you do when you improve efficiency, but we're approaching it from the other end of the in the revenue end.
Absolutely. And that's why these use cases that AI has a big impact on are really, they're so deeply intertwined, because the common thread amongst all of these is making sense of the information and the data that you have available. And oftentimes you're looking at the same data, but the way you are querying it, the way artificial intelligence approaches it, is you're looking at that same ocean of data, but you're looking at it through a slightly different lens, and you're looking for different predictions, insights, and outcomes. So that's why we see a lot of crossover between these different use cases. So I think our last topic that we see that is most prevalent today is this concept of yield optimization. And I think this is probably a good segue into one of our customer stories when we talk about how do we get the very most out of the raw materials that we bring into the food production process. And Mikhail, I know you'll talk a little bit about this from a customer story perspective, but that really is understanding the variances that are in some of these raw materials. For example, in the concept of cheese production, for example, the output is going to be impacted by the yield that you're able to get out of different batches of milk, for example. And again, it's a natural product. It's not something that's manufactured, so you can't always know what the consistency is. And you have to be able to look at what's coming into your manufacturing process, understand what the levels are that you're expecting for the maximized output, and to be able to make adjustments to your recipes on the fly while you're going through a manufacturing process. Before implementing artificial intelligence, that's something that was really more of alchemy. It was more of a guessing game, right? Trying to figure out, how do we get that? Let's experiment and figure out how do we get the best optimization, right? To get the very most out of the products that we're bringing into the process. And Mikhail, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about our customers who are focused on yield optimizations. Might be a good time to pivot to our customer stories.
Yes, absolutely. And just mention another, so we were improving the yield, right? Exactly to what you talked about, because you have variability in the ingredients. So you need to adjust to get that same yield or optimize the yield. But also equally important, you want to do that because then you get a more consistent product. So it doesn't vary because that the raw material varied. So it's both those aspects when it comes into this working with the yield and the different parameters and how to change the manufacturing based on the input parameters. And yeah, I can mention, so we have Amalthea, customer of ours in the Netherlands. So they make goat cheese, and they have now, I don't know, when was it, Todd? Maybe a year or so ago. They applied AI to their cheese manufacturing, and this was something that wasn't even possible before, because now they collect this vast amount of data, and then they quickly, with the use of AI, they can make decisions like, how do we change that manufacturing process to optimize the yield, again, to best get the most out of the ingredients, but also get that to that consistency. And again, this wasn't possible before, because if you got all these data and as a human trying to interpret that, once you have done that, it's too late. It's too late to change the process. So I really like this use case, and I know that it's saving bottom line money for them. It's a really cool case. And I can't remember, maybe you know, Todd, I think they had something like 50 parameters that are collected and going into this yield equation, and different parameters being analyzed to optimize the yield.
Yeah, that's correct. It's approximately 50 different parameters, and like we said before, trying to figure this out just from a human perspective, looking at this and being able to measure this means that they were only able to identify yield deviations on a weekly basis at best. And they've gone from being able to identify those deviations from a weekly basis to a daily basis. And you can imagine what that savings is, both in terms of consistency of product as well as optimizing the output. And that's led to a significant amount of savings. For every 1% increase in yield that they get, and Amalfi is based in Europe, that's approximately 500,000 euros of annual savings. So they're seeing tremendous financial benefit from this.
So sorry to interrupt. 1 second, Todd. It looks like we are not seeing the full screens of your slides anymore.
Oh, apologies. Sometimes PowerPoint has a mind of its own.
Looks good now. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, there it is. Yeah, and then, so I think that was that on a theoretical level, right? That's what we mostly talked about now, a few different use cases. And this is not everything. It's just typical use cases for artificial intelligence and how it brings innovation, and again, sets a foundation for growth. We have also, actually, if you move to the next slide, Todd, I think we have there it is, right? So we have quite a few of testimonial videos from Infor customers for this innovation, artificial intelligence. So if you scan that QR code there, and you can see the link too, you can go in and watch those. It's like 2-3 minutes long videos. There is a lot within food and beverage, but we also have from other industries, and some use cases. Of course, not everything is applicable for food and beverage, but for example, if it is within administrative processes, that goes cross industry. So I would encourage not only watch for food and beverage or food and beverage customers, just kind of look across the board, and maybe it's not even that use case, but gives inspiration to something. So I would really encourage to watch that. And in particular, so I already mentioned here now the last one with the yield improvement with Amidst. The other one I would highlight there is Zealandia. So they provide bakery ingredients, and they used artificial intelligence for what we talked about there. I think that was the use case number 4 for price optimizations and product recommendations. So again, really adding to the revenue opportunity. So just wanted to highlight those. Todd, did I forget anything there? Any other use cases you want to kind of recommend to watch?
Mikhail, I'll say for everybody who's on, I'll reinforce the fact, please either use the QR code or hit the link here to our showcase sites, because these are direct customer stories, right? This is not us talking about what the technology of artificial intelligence does. It's more about what the business value of AI brings to each company. And that's where, when you think about artificial intelligence, we wanted to talk specifically today about use cases and about value, because it really shouldn't be a matter of trying to figure out how to utilize the technology. It should be about how to figure out how to get the very most out of the technology itself from a business perspective. I like to think of AI as just a way to answer those tough questions or solve those hard problems that you haven't been able to address in the past. And it does it in a way that leverages your data, your information, right, to show you insights to things and problems that you could address yourselves, or opportunities that you may be able to seize upon very quickly.
Yeah, when you say that, Todd, I mean, we talked about a few areas here that are applicable, and we have use cases, we have models for it. We've already done it, and and we can do it for more people, right? But we also like to go in and talk to our customers and talk about what's on their mind, what are their challenges. And it may or may not be what we talked about today. It's more about where are the challenges and how can this new technology address those challenges and bring value, business value. So there isn't just one formula for this. It's rather a set of capabilities that can be applied to many different use cases and bring value.
That's correct. Absolutely.
Yeah. Todd, actually, one thing we didn't talk about here that might be good to talk about is like how quickly can you run these projects? What does it mean? What does it entail? If you have a use case, obviously you need the data in some way or other, right? But how do you go about it? How big is a project? Like, what does it mean? Can you please just cover that a little bit?
Sure, I can walk you through the process. You know, at Infor, we spent a lot of time figuring out how to make artificial intelligence about value. And so what we've done is we've abstracted the technology portion of this. So what we find is that our process is unique in the fact that we will spend time with customers to understand, first of all, what is a primary or what we call an anchor use case. That is, you know, what is a big problem we're trying to solve? It might be yield optimization. It might be demand management. It might be better and more accurate forecasting. And then what we do is we sit down and we'll work with the customer to look at the data sources that we know are going to provide us the most insights on that. And then that work with the customer is really more of, think of it as an agile approach where we spend a few weeks and we look at the data and then we run it through our algorithms and we come back and then we work in an iterative fashion where we're constantly tuning and improving the insights and decisions that are coming out of those algorithms until both we, you know, ourselves and the customers are comfortable and confident in the accuracy of those predictions or insights. And that's a process that can run anywhere from as short as 5 weeks up to 9 to 10 weeks. And so what we've done through that process is we've validated that you have the data that's necessary to get better insights or make better decisions. And we're starting showing you some of the potential results. So you can see for yourself, is artificial intelligence a tool that's going to be beneficial for you from a business perspective? Most oftentimes, when we get to that level of discussion, we know it makes sense. And then it's simply a matter of putting that level of insight into production. And so customers can go from initial exploration of an artificial intelligence use case to starting to see business value in as little as 90 to 120 days. And I know that sounds very fast, and it is. And it's because of the way we approach our technology abstracted viewpoint of AI. We make it about data and we make it about value. The other thing we do is we bring a team of data scientists and machine learning engineers, those technology people who are really they're the key folks to making sure that the algorithms are running most optimally and they stay tuned to be running effectively in the future. We provide that insight and capability. I like to describe it as data science or data service, data science as a service, excuse me, kind of fractional ownership of data scientists. So you don't have to build out your own AI practice. That's another tremendous advantage, and it's what allows us to really shorten that time to value cycle, Mikhail.
Yeah, and that not just talk, Todd. That's really, it's quick projects, and bringing that value within 60, 90 days. I mean, it's pretty quick, and then iterate from there.
Yeah, and we've done that with over 100 customers already. So like you said, it's not something that we talk about. It's something we prove out on a weekly basis.
And as much as we've done those 100 or so projects, right, we're still in some way breaking new ground here. I mean, we're far from done with this. There is a lot of opportunities, and I think there is a lot of to explore. It just depends on, again, what are your business challenges? And then look into that. Can you address it with this new technology? So bring that innovation, automation.
Absolutely.
Okay, I do see we have a couple of questions here. Todd, before we look at those, what else? Did we forget to mention anything?
No, I think it's probably a good time for us to move to the Q&A. I want to make sure that we
Yeah.
have an opportunity for folks in the audience to ask questions about anything we've covered.
Yes, so let's see here. I need to move to this other window here. So we have here one question. Do you have any examples of companies who are using AI that you can share and what they're using for? That came in pretty early. I think after that, I mean, yes, we do. And again, we have that QR code here. And is it visible? Let me check. Yeah, there it is.
It's still
So
visible.
yeah, exactly. So if you scan that one, go to it's our Infor YouTube, and you will watch these videos, and they are there. We also have case studies, some case studies as well. So it's on the Infor web page, but you can also contact us. I mean, this is what we're excited about. This is what we want to talk about. So if you want to talk more about this, let us know, and we'll talk about stories we have already, and then also be able to explore what you have and what could be addressed. So I think that answers that one. And then we have another one. This is a long one, so I'll read here. Using AI requires a large pool of accurate data. Yes, correct. To really leverage it. Food service isn't the most innovative or technological industry out there. How would many operators in the industry get the data they need to really put AI to use? Think about a small fast food or quick serve restaurant, small business, probably aren't collecting or don't have a way to collect this data right now. That's a long question. Todd, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, it's first of all accurate, and it's a good question and a good point, because data really it's the fuel that drives the AI engine. And the more data you have and the better data you have, it's just like having better quality gasoline in your car. It's going to run better. It's going to run longer. However, what we have found is that the algorithms can work with a much lighter data set than you may actually think. If we think about where we go to get this information, pretty much every aspect of business nowadays has been digitized, right? Whether it's your operational information, your financial information, your sales information, most of that's available online. And as part of our approach and applying our algorithms, which is really just the library of decision processes, we also identify what types of data sets make those predictions as accurate as possible. And it's the reason we take the approach that we do. We call it a data readiness assessment. That's the process that I described earlier, where we come in and we meet with folks and we take a look at what data is available based upon both our experience and what the customer may have at hand. And there are occasions where we are not able to apply the right algorithms from our library, or there may be some gaps in the data that allow us or that don't allow us to be able to make accurate predictions. In that case, what we usually do is we help the customer identify where they may go or what information they may want to bring into their larger data set. So somewhere down the road, they can take advantage of AI. However, those are situations that happen to be the exception, I think, rather than the rule. For most customers, again, because all data is digitized nowadays, we have pretty strong visibility into the type of information we need. And as long as we have that information, we can apply it to our artificial intelligence algorithms. But like I said in the beginning, the more information you have, the more confidence you can have in those predictions. So maybe we start with a less impactful use case that doesn't have as strong of a financial implication. It might be something that's more operationally based, where we simply test that out, because time will tell, even with a smaller data set, how accurate that prediction is. And like everything else, once we get a history of predictions, those history of predictions can be measured and used, and also then turned around to be able to better determine what we can expect in the future.
And I know, so the question here was also around small fast food or quick serve restaurants.
Mhm.
And maybe they don't, but I could also see that they have a lot of data. They probably have some point of sale, right? And they need to have. And then they do collect a lot of data. Perhaps you could use that one for that demand predictions that we talked about in the beginning. So I think, but first you need to think about what is the use case, right? What are we trying to solve? But I wouldn't say that there isn't data that is valuable. There probably is. Maybe more or less, but I wouldn't, discourage any, depending on a certain industry.
I would agree. Don't sell yourself short. You probably have more data than you think.
Yes, yes. So I hope we answered that one. There came in another one also here right now. Do you include equipment suppliers with the food and manufacturer as part of your customer internal team? Because internal data may be skewed due to the food manufacturer bad practices on the maintenance side, or holding off doing maintenance due to cost pressure by the CFO and COO.
Yeah, that's another very good point, is where is this data coming from? Our approach to data is it can really reside anywhere. What we simply ask is that we have opportunity to get access to that data. So if it's a third party who owns a piece of critical information and they're willing to partner with you through the sharing of that data, we bring it into Infor Secure Data Lake, where we can now apply our algorithmic logic to it. And this is very common for us. We often pull data from outside a core company or a core corporation. We pull it from third parties. We pull it from external data sources, so we can have a more comprehensive view to give us better insights. So that's actually a very common data strategy or data methodology that we apply across all of our use cases. But great question.
Hmm. And I think this is exactly what we want to avoid, right? So the question was just a sentence out of that: holding off doing maintenance due to cost pressure by the CFO and COO. Well, think about when that equipment goes down, that is probably way more expensive than doing that maintenance. So that's exactly what we want to address.
Yes.
Being ahead of the game. Okay, what time? I think let's do one more question. I think we're running out of time here. I'll pick something that looks like interesting. We talked about that. Well, how about this one? What will be the impact of AI on my people/organization?
Oh, that's a good question. It's a great question to end on. I've received this question many times over the last couple of years, because there's a fear of AI. And I think in some ways a little bit unjust, that AI is going to replace what people normally do on a day-to-day basis. And what people find out, and what I found out just through working with our customers, is that artificial intelligence really, it doesn't replace the human logic. What it does is it augments it and it improves it. So the interaction that AI has with your employees is the fact that it makes them more effective decision makers. No matter where they are in your organization, whether they be folks working on the production line and they're receiving real-time feedback through AI that requires them to change how they're producing a particular product, all the way up through executive management, where they're looking at things like financial forecasting, understanding what do we need to change, or what adjustments do we need to make sure we hit our targets for the next quarter. What we're providing through our artificial intelligence engine is better insights, and we're assisting people, we're augmenting them to make better decisions based upon data in a way that they couldn't before. So AI is don't think of AI from a perspective of replacing people as much as improving every person who interacts with it.
I agree. And I think that's a good note to end on.
All right. Thank you guys so much. And thank you everybody for joining us today, attendees. Thank you, Mikael and Todd, again for the excellent presentation and great discussion about AI. So everybody can keep an eye on their inbox for the recording of the event, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you all.
See you. Bye-bye.